So Richard, we're sitting in front of an audience of major financial institutions in US-based funds, and I think that we kind of have to start with this flurry of news reports from the last few days. I know that I'm interested in what Bloomberg and the Wall Street Journal have to say about what's going on between the Trump White House and Binance. I'm going to take you down the list, and let's see what you have to say. So Bloomberg is reporting that World Liberty Financial, which is that crypto bank that the Trump family supports, has been in talks with Binance.
First of all, good morning, Neil. Very nice to see all of you here. Thanks, Digital Asset Summit, for having me. But first on that speculation, I believe both World Liberty Financial as well as CZ himself have tweeted and denying the reports, right? So other than that, there's really nothing else to add. I take charge of Binance.com. For anything relating to Binance.us, you have to approach our colleagues that's based here. Yeah.
I have to also ask you about the Wall Street Journal report that, and I understand that Binance US is different than Binance.com.
It's different, yeah.
But the Trump White House and Trump in particular was looking at getting a stake in Binance.us. Any comment on that?
No, so again, as I mentioned, .us and .com are quite different animals, right? So they have different set of shareholders, they have different board of directors and different CEO running the show. So I think .us is best to approach the .us colleagues there to discuss the issue.
So we've had this significant changing of the guard, both with respect to overall policy in the U.S., but the country's approach to crypto in particular. And so, I mean, you are a regulator by training, so I think maybe we start there. You have clearly laid out the fact that these are two separate entities, they're not working together, but U.S. policy ripples into your international business. So how are you feeling about the Trump White House so far?
So it's fantastic, right? So I mean, for those that are based in the US itself, you must be really optimistic in the crypto industry. We went from 4 years of Operation Choke Point 2.0 to now, you have a very pro-president, pro-crypto, pro-AI president, right? So I think it's extremely different environment that we're operating into. And I mean, Binance.com, we don't operate in the US, but we have benefited from all these pro-crypto policies. I think if you look at what happened immediately after President Trump has been appointed, we moved from regulation via enforcement, which is not tenable. I'm an ex-regulator. I spent 28 years in regulations. And I tell you, that's the worst form of regulation, right? Because as regulators, we have the ability to write rules, we have the ability to give guidance, and you hold a pen. Why do you want to go to courts to enforce the guidance that you can give to the industry, right? So that should be the last port of call. So under this administration, it's extremely positive. I think the US is coming out with very thoughtful rules and regulations, taking time to formulate those. So we're holding a watching brief of what's coming out from the US. But that general optimism has filtered into the global markets, right? So today, Binance, we have about 265 million users globally, making us the largest platform. We have the deepest liquidity, most liquid order books on that front. So just as some data, right? So we started last year, 2024, with 170 million users on the platform. We ended the year with 240 plus million users. So we onboarded 70 million plus new users throughout the course of last year. It means that more than 30% of the users now on Binance are new users that just came on board. And that's part of the mainstreaming that we are seeing, right? So started the year with ETF approval in the US, and then subsequently in different parts of the world, from Brazil to Australia to Hong Kong. And that gave a new look into this space, right? So the institutions are now starting to take this space very seriously. So crypto, unlike any other asset class, has been very unique. It has always been embraced by retail, and the rest doesn't quite embrace it. Whereas any other asset class always starts from institutions to corporates to high net worth, and then finally the retailers gets it. So last year was a landmark year in the form that institutions are finally coming on board. And the regulators are starting to look at this space seriously, starting to devote resources and give clarity, right? So going forward, we are bullish with all the key drivers because more and more regulators will be compelled to spend resources to come up with clear rules to compete with US, which is going to be extremely pro-crypto. And with President Trump coming out with both, whether you call it strategic crypto reserve or asset stockpile, it will force governments around the world in terms of their own sovereign wealth funds, their own asset allocation to look at this space quite seriously, to do allocation. And the sovereign wealth funds are already starting allocation, right? So you have corporate treasuries, etc. So there's going to be a huge momentum going forward.
Well, on that last point, I mean, there are reports that a lot of the Gulf states have been looking into this, that there were even conversations within the Chinese government to launch an SBR type of fund. Are you advising governments on those plans?
Well, globally, I think post President Trump election, we have received a lot of approaches from different governments around the world. By virtue of us being the largest, we are now regulated in 21 different jurisdictions, making us the most regulated entity globally, right? From different parts of Asia Pacific, such as Japan, Australia, Thailand, Indonesia, so on, to different parts of Middle East, to Latin America, Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, to other very fast developing countries. So many countries, I mean, even today, only about 1/3 of global regulators are regulating this space. 2/3 are still not. For those 1/3, they regulate crypto in different manners. Some deem it as securities, some deem it as commodities. Singapore is a digital payment token. And then in Middle East, some parts of the world, they created calibrated bespoke framework to regulate them as virtual assets, right? So again, when countries approach us, we want them to come up with a framework that support the innovative aspects of crypto, but managing the risk aspect. And we have quite a lot of experience on that front, having been licensed and regulated in so many different jurisdictions by now. So we are working with quite a number of jurisdictions. I'm recently in different parts of Asia Pacific, in Hong Kong, in Japan. Again, every time there are new rules coming out from those places, we are sought after to give inputs into the changes they are making to make those regimes even more competitive.
Recently, when we had that SBR announcement, the White House's first ever AI and crypto czar, David Sachs, said that there would be an open process to choose a custodian. I know that Coinbase might be one of the names in the mix. Do you think that Binance might also throw its hat in the ring to custody cryptocurrency for the US?
Well, so last year, I mean, in terms of number of institutional clients, I think we have we see a huge surge in terms of onboarding, right? So in terms of particular space, we do serve the institutions slightly differently. So we have products such as what we call Binance Wealth. We have tripartite arrangement, meaning a lot of traditional institutions, they still want their assets to be custodized with banks, but they want to trade through us, right? By virtue that you get best execution, you get best bid-ask spread by trading through us. So with things like tripartite arrangement between us, the banks, and the trading party, we have Binance Wealth, where you have assets that's under discretionary management of fund managers, and their clients wants to get into crypto, we offer them those products. So we have different options available for institutions to come through and trade through us. But it really depends on what they need. So we will tailor products accordingly based on the institutional needs.
But what about custodying cryptocurrency for the US government?
Oh, in the US, we can't speak. We are not in the US at this point in time, so we don't operate here, so we can't quite speak on that front.
You just took on your first institutional investment, $2 billion. It set a lot of firsts, both for your company and for the industry. Talk to me about that.
So I think last week we announced a $2 billion investment by MGX into Binance. There are several firsts coming out from that. For those that may not know, MGX is an Abu Dhabi-based AI and advanced technology investment powerhouse. I mean, they have partnerships with the like of BlackRock and Microsoft of the world. So it's a good first that is on many fronts. So it's the first institutional investment into Binance for minority stake in Binance. It's the first of its kind in the sense that it's the largest investment into a crypto company, and it's the largest that will be paid in a stablecoin, so in cryptocurrency. So there are several firsts coming out from that. So we're excited. We're excited to see how we can bring about greater convergence, because they invest a lot into AI as well, right? So how do we bring about greater convergence between AI, blockchain, and finance space going forward?
I mean, what does that look like for you? How is AI going to change the business model for Binance and help us scale?
Well, really, I think it's not only for ourselves, but for different economic sectors, right? So I think there's AI for the industry and AI for our platform. So on a platform basis, we are utilizing AI on an extensive basis, right? From things, very basic things like customer service to how we do compliance, right? So if you look at when we do know your customer, know your business, do transaction monitoring, market surveillance, the inclusion of AI now allow us to achieve much higher level of efficiency and effectiveness than ever before. The different level of operations, how we do security, etc. I think security must be a key concern looking at the 1.5 billion hack a couple of weeks ago of another large platform. So I think on those fronts, I think we utilize technology extensively. And this is a blockchain sector. We have to continue to utilize technology to achieve efficiency. So I think that's one. Second front, I think there's an intersection between AI and blockchain. I think the utilization of things like AI agent, etc. There are many projects that's built on AI. We are monitoring how those projects develop. As a platform, we are agnostic, right? So we are a cryptocurrency exchange platform. We are agnostic to new projects, but we want to support all the innovation coming through.
So Coinbase is the dominant player in the US, and if anything, their influence over the 2024 election, in which the crypto industry outraised banks and oil, has kind of solidified that company's place on Capitol Hill. We're talking about globally, though, what the game looks like in terms of centralized exchanges competing against one another, and Binance is losing market share. So what's your plan?
I don't think so. So if you look at the different data points, I think depending on where you are looking at, right? So at any point in time, we have more than 40% of global market share, so which is huge. I think it's healthier. I think one of the important factors to take into account, Binance is a relatively young company. We started in 2017, so we are going to celebrate our 8-year anniversary this year. Having said that, we went through different cycles, different crypto cycles. So it's quite important to look at things like resiliency, right? Ability to stay on top. We launched in July 2017, and we became the largest crypto platform within half a year. And we stayed in that position since, right? Being the largest cryptocurrency platform. So the ability to stay at the top throughout various cycles, I think the market share will increase and drop. I think a few percentage points here and there. But I think we are pretty confident with our focus on giving our users the best platform, having the best bid dash rate. A lot of, just as an example, a lot of users that start trading through ETFs subsequently advance to cryptocurrency platform. And I can explain why. Because the liquidity costs associated with ETFs are very high. ETFs only trade a certain amount of hours a day today. They don't trade weekends, they don't trade holidays. So, and crypto is trading 24/7. So the cost of not taking positions, not hedging your positions, etc., are too high associated with that. So it's a good entry-level product, but for the more sophisticated institutions, they'll gravitate towards cryptocurrency exchange. And by virtue of us having the deepest liquidity pool, it results in substantial cost savings for many of these big traders over time by trading through us. So I think they realize that.
How are you navigating accusations by different governments that Binance doesn't pay its taxes, whether it's local payroll? And I'm thinking of this very specifically in the context of Nigeria, where one of your employees was held in prison in terrible conditions, barely made it out alive. The Nigerian government, from their perspective, they would say, well, the company didn't pay its taxes. We charged them with a mix of criminal and other charges. Walk me through your response to that.
So I think firstly, what I will say is that we are very grateful that Tigran is out. I think for those that know Tigran, you know he's a professional of the highest order, highest integrity. The treatment that he went through Nigeria is not warranted. I think we have always tried to liaise and work and cooperate with any governments around the world to say that, look, these are issues that we can resolve. If there is a certain dispute on the amount of taxation or regulatory approval that we need to seek, we are able to solve those problems. We have solved problems with the US before. We have paid a massive amount of
$4.3 billion.
$4.3 billion. And maybe to put that into context, right? When we first started in 2017, the landscape is so unclear. It's so nascent, right? I mentioned only 1/3 of global regulators are regulating this space today. In 2017, where there's less than 1% crypto adoption globally, today it's about 7%. Regulators are not paying attention in that space at that point in time. The rules are unclear. So we underinvested in compliance in those very early days, right? But what is important as a responsible institution is acknowledge those early mistakes, make amends for it, invest greatly into compliance, which we are doing now. So we acknowledge those mistakes made in those early years where the rules are nascent and developing and are clear in many instances. We make huge restitution and compensation in terms of fines. And now we have invested heavily into compliance. By and large, if you look at our compliance team today, it's the largest in the industry, right? So we have more than 1,300 professionals working tirelessly in this space, other than the usage of AI, which make us extremely efficient. So if you take that into our headcount is like slightly less than 6,000. Close to 20 to 25% of the organization is involved in compliance in some form or the other, right? By virtue of them appointing an ex-regulator to head up this outfit, show the seriousness that we have in this space. So I think it's the way to go. The direction of travel is very clear. It's one of compliance. And we want to resolve issues with any governments around the world if there are any outstanding issues, but it's not through detention of any of the staff of any companies globally. I think that sends a very bad signal, right? There are various allegations, and we deny a lot of those allegations, right? But for the rest, I think we are willing to work with any government, sit down, have proper conversations to resolve the issue. And we look forward to a future where we can work very closely with the Nigerian government to really help them embrace crypto, which is going to be a very important driver for economic growth going forward.
Now, as part of resolving the charges with the U.S., CZ ended up serving 4 months in prison, and he's been out since he got out of a halfway house in September. You took over his job, but he's still the majority shareholder. He has a net worth of almost $37 billion. A lot of people were skeptical when he walked into the role, saying, who is this guy in a suit coming in? And obviously CZ is this huge character, very charismatic, a lot of support within the industry. So I guess my question is twofold. One, how much authority and autonomy do you have when your majority shareholder is still such a major force in the industry? And two, how do you feel you're doing? What's your own report card?
Well, every shareholder will have shareholding rights, as all of you that's involved in the capital markets will understand, right? So shareholders have certain rights within the company. But we have moved from a stage where the company was very early, high growth, founder-led, to one that's still high growth, but now is a board-led company. So it's totally different, right? So in terms of corporate structure, we have changed that totally. Today, we have a board of directors of 7 members instead of CZ being, the key decision maker during that point in time. So now I report to the board of directors, right? Comprising 7 members, including 3 independent directors and an independent chairman. And we work very closely on that front. I mean, me and the key management team report to the board of directors on various fronts. And we have, as I mentioned, we have continued to invest greatly, not only in terms of our corporate setup, but also in terms of our compliance, our security function, to make ourselves the best-in-class platform that is weatherproof, that is going through different cycles, and that will continue to emerge very strongly in the crypto space.
Is Binance thinking about launching its own US dollar peg stablecoin?
No, I think we have tried in the past in terms of partnership with BUSD. I think, again, that's a very unfortunate episode. I think through nothing that is the fault of BUSD, I think, under Operation Choke Point, as with any other crypto projects, that suffer, unfair treatment in many sense, right? But today we are working with many crypto projects globally. We have announced one with Circle, BUSD, a global partnership in November last year. And none of these partnerships are exclusive. So any point in time, we discuss many different projects, be in the stablecoin space or other space, be it US-based, US dollar peg or other currency peg, right? So we have many different discussions at this point in time, but we have announced a global partnership with Circle last year.
So, as I mentioned earlier, you're a regulator by training. You talked about regulation by enforcement being the hallmark of the past 4 years under Gary Gensler's watch at the SEC. Last month, we saw this pause put on the SEC's case against Binance in the U.S. And that's separate to your organization and what you're running. But as a regulator, are you talking to the SEC? Are you talking to the CFTC? Are you speaking with anyone in the U.S. as it relates to your business?
As you know, conversation with regulators are sacrosanct. It's confidential in nature, so I can't disclose any of those. But I mean, what I can say is that we are very grateful with the new, very thoughtful process of going through the issues, and we welcome this very thoughtful process currently that we have. And we are really watching what's coming out from the US very closely in terms of the crypto regulations, because it has impact globally, because US has such a wide, outsized influence globally, right? Being the capital markets of capital markets here. The regulations will be watched very closely by Europe, by different parts of Asia Pacific, by Latin America, and hopefully those positive influence will then filter on through all the different jurisdictions. And we will see a much better framework going forward for global regulations of crypto.
The SEC has been rolling back a lot of existing cases, and the $4.3 billion settlement that Binance had with the US resolved everything except for that SEC case. So I'm keeping an eye on where that lands after the next 30 days this hold expires. We're over time, so very quickly, tell me, what keeps you up at night?
Really different things. How to make sure our platform continue to improve on various fronts, how to make sure that our product feature continue to be most attractive, give the users what we want, investing very heavily into compliance to make sure that we continue to stay ahead of the game, security. And also, we have many global partners that are approaching us, very exciting opportunities. So if you know any M&A opportunities, any platforms for sale, please do approach us. So all those things keep us up at night. But we want to make sure that we run a very robust, operational, best-in-class platform at Binance.
You're going to be stormed by founders who want to be acquired after this. Thank you, Richard. Thank you to everyone joining us today and to the conference organizers. Pleasure being with you this morning.
Thank you.